Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Young Sohn, President of Samsung.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, VivaTech, for us to be here today. And I think this is a tremendous opportunity this morning to talk about tech for good. And we have seen technology has done major transformation. Countries like Korea, companies like Samsung, creating new jobs and new opportunities. So I know there's a lot of discussion about, is tech for good? What are the opportunities for tech for the better world? So what I want to talk about is really what can we do together, all of us in this room, to impact the world by using technology. So first of all, VivaTech is a great marketplace to get together, exchange ideas, and networking, and being able to see the new ideas that are coming. And without that insight and catalyst, we wouldn't be able to make progress alone. And I think that this picture of the 19th century Korean market also represents similar kind of dynamics where the exchange of goods, ideas, and celebration happen. So I'm really happy to be here in VivaTech as a part of the celebration community to share the ideas. This picture may be news to you, but actually this is one of the oldest temple that has the teachings of Buddhism that went through the generations from 14th century. It doesn't look like much, but it actually is like data center. It had the script that are written in 81,258 blocks, and being able to print over the years, and being able to share that teachings through the generations. Today, we may think this is old temple, but actually it was controlled for the temperature, controlled for humidity, and also it has the enough system to control from the bugs that are attacking the wooden blocks. Today, if you look at modern data centers, it's very different, but the purpose is very similar. It has the same purpose of capturing your data, being able to preserve your information, and being able to power them around the globe over time. The only difference maybe is amount of power that uses in this technology. If you look at the amount of data centers that are consuming power, today is something like 416 terawatt hour, which is equivalent to 6 years of the powering the city of Paris. So I think this morning there was some talk around tech for good. What do you do about power? How do you make sure that we can be able to preserve and being able to maintain data economy at the right power base? And obviously, some of the things we are working is to make sure we can be able to preserve the power at the right power density using innovation to be able to manage that. The interesting thing about this morning about data economy, I think there's a lot of analogy between oil and data. Just like 19th century, before 19th century, oil was there for 2,000 years. But oil was not very meaningful to what we do until the engine was developed. An engine that be able to feel the capabilities of oil to transform the people, to move people, to create or processing, to create byproducts like plastics and others. And you can see that oil industry in just 10 years ago dominate our economy as a whole. Today, in data economy, really the top 10 changed quite a bit. How many of these oil companies do you think is in this list? Not that many. In fact, there's only one. In fact, most companies now replace other data and platform companies. So this just shows one example of economy that in the midst of major transformation that we are going through. So why is that? I think the reason for this is really we're going through a major storm that are on, and it is in a way another revolution, industrialization like we have seen in the past, along with the major industrial changes. If part of that is really to do with availability of IoT and data, Part of that is a very low compute and the power that can be able to connect. Part of that is really cloud, our ability to connect to the cloud. So this accessibility of connectivity that I think earlier speaker talked about, along with the 4G, 5G that are coming, it'll make it even more real time and data that's going to be in front of us, along with also all the advancement in semiconductors that can reduce the power of capabilities that can help us to be where we are today. And obviously, we also have to worry about security and safety and privacy of our information. These are things all coming together, making it very difficult subject, yet it's transforming every business that we know it. And it's going to be challenging and opportunity-wise helping us to go forward in a different world. So the real question is then, as these things happen, can we use technology for good? Can we use this technology for a better world? And we've been looking at not only technologies that are purposeful in some ways, but really being able to address major issues that are in front of us. Clearly, the population is going to continue to grow, expecting 10 billion people by 2050. And almost 70% of us are going to be urbanized. And the aging process will only make us live longer. So we have to figure out smarter and better way to live and being able to impact all the scarcity of the water, to better air, to health. All these dimensions are going to pressure us unless all of us do something about it as a community, as a technologists, and as entrepreneurs. So I'm going to take an example of health as an example of a disruption that could help us to change, and hoping some of you in this room can join me to work on this project. So clearly, biology and technology used to be a two separate domain. It didn't really talk that much, goes its own ways. But if you think about what's happening with biology and technology, they are coming together. In fact, if you think about AI, many of you heard of AI. It's neuromorphic processing. It's about imitating our brain. And that capability really is inspired by our brain. The difference is it takes a lot of power to run data centers in AI. As an example, when that Go game that happened, DeepMind versus the Go champion of South Korea, it took 167 servers to defeat him. But actually, Mr. Lee, who was competing, his brain was only 25 watts of power. So human brain is a very efficient power processing engine. And this example of brain being able to transfer to in creating a new AI. And then if you think about gene sequencing to understand better of our body, it's only 2003 that we be able to, first time, be able to sequence human genomes. And it took $3 billion. $3 billion. Today, we can sequence gene for $1,000. Soon, all of you will have to have this gene sequencing for very little money. Why is that? Because of technology that are evolved and be able to use cloud technologies and semiconductors that can be able to influence biology. So this is a loop of how the biology and technology can coexist and influence. So when you think about new business ideas, solving big problems, you really have to get out of the box. You have to think about big box of big problems and combine a multidisciplinary skill sets to combine example biology and technology, but it could be many other things. This is why, in my view, all industrially disrupted, and we think about how to think these issues out of the box. This is an example of a 50-year Moore's law. Many of you heard of it. Basically, the transistor density doubles every 18 months at similar cost, and we have brought tremendous benefit to all of you. All of you had phones. That phone is much bigger than the phone that first came out in 1984. If you look at that phone, that's a brick. It is about 20 times heavier than what you have in your fingertip. Its talk time was 30 minutes. And it was $3,000 phone. In fact, that phone belonged to this guy named Goldie Gecko in a movie called Wall Street in 1984. Today, you have beautiful phone that can be able to last much longer with a user interface that are far greater than what it had been. Without Moore's law, without technological innovation, it wouldn't be possible. I can also see the similar kind of things in automotive. Think about the car of yesterday versus car of tomorrow. Your safety features are going to be something we're going to get used to. Part of European standard, NCAP, by 2021, is going to be able to detect humans in France being able to stop automatically. That's possible because of advancement in technology, from radars to cameras and processing engines that can be able to take advantage of that. So these are examples of what we have seen in the benefit of IT. Now, on the other hand, biology is still struggling. In fact, health in general is struggling. It's getting more expensive. As we are longer, it's becoming a bigger burden on our economy. In fact, the biggest burden in the world today is the United States. 18% of GDP is used for health care. And many of other countries are also increasing. In the case of Korea, it's becoming 8%. So it's only one trend, increasing cost. Part of that is because biology is much difficult to discover. It does not have the same kind of law. In fact, there is something called Eram's law. What that really is, it takes twice longer to discover new drugs, and it costs a lot more to create new drugs. This got to change. This equation is not going to help us live better. So part of that is really about how do we then use AI and data to help us connect better. The truth is AI and data enough to solve some of these issues about our body? It's like navigating space, galaxy. And galaxy has 100 billion stars out there. And trying to make sense around stars and trying to find where the life is really hard to do. So remember, when you are looking at AI and data, you need to understand where the insights are. You cannot just go out there randomly, hoping these things are going to make sense out of it. So it's like looking for life in an empty space. It's very sparse. It's too vast. How do you connect and sense out of that? It's all about putting it together and gathering better insights that can only help you. So if you think AI and data will solve all your problems, I don't think so. You need to be very targeted. You need to understand what you're looking. And then when you do that, then you can get a much better insight around what you're looking. But at the same time, the opportunity is great. So I give you an example of why it's so difficult. In terms of stars, it's 10 to 24, right? It's a lot of stars out there, billion. Our protein possibility is 10 to 143. So it is much harder to get a sense out of that. This is why you need to have some ways to look at this correlational data. They can be able to make sense out of that. So the thing that we have to do is really we have to get much better insight about our body. Remember, your doctor, your hospital only has 10% of your data. The 90% of data doesn't exist. It comes from your phone. It comes from your wearables. It comes from how you sleep. So we need to figure out how do you bring this information together to make actually better sense about us. Otherwise, we'll be navigating the stars with 10% of information. No matter how good AI is, it's not going to solve all your problems. So one of the core that I have is we need to figure out how to get better information that can give us a better insight. Therefore, then we can be more proactive. And in the process, we can be able to reduce costs of care. Because of that, we can be able to prevent diseases that could happen. So I'm going to change the subject a little bit to mobility 1.0, because that's where we are today. And clearly, the mobility helped us to improve our lives greatly. 64% of worldwide population has now internet connectivity and mobile phones. So it have reached out really across from Africa, India, to other countries to be connected, be able to know what's going on, be able to aware of the information that are out there. I'm not saying all information is good. In fact, I would say we have many digital junkies that are probably getting too much digitalization, not being able to focus on where they need to go. But at the end of the day, it has been a good tool to democratizing and reaching the mass of the people with emotionally connecting with the people that normally you may be able to not connect in a long distances. So all those things helped us to be better lives. Now, what is the next stage? It's about safer, more secure type of services that we need. And to do it, actually, you cannot do it alone. In fact, this one requires government, industry, entrepreneurship together to solve this problem. Part of that is because of the standardization. The network effect only works when you have a common standard, and then you can be able to create multiplication effort. But if you don't have the approach to talk to each other, if you don't have a common network, if you don't have the common approach to talk to other compute, it will become an island. An island cannot solve all the problems, particularly when you want to go autonomous driving. That's not going to happen until we have a standard approach to communicate between the traffic lights, between the cloud, between your car, between different brands of cars. All these things have to interconnect, and that is going to take some time. And this is why it's not just the companies investing, but also it requires leadership of the companies working together to create standard. And when you do that, we can create a much safer standard that can help us deploy around the world. So the Samsung's view is really about investing for the future, investing on the core technologies, whether it's AI, semiconductor, 5G, and we have announced we're going to spend $160 billion next 3 years to really push this technology envelope that we can contribute so that there is a universal access and being able to push the new technologies that can be able to a better contribution. For the startup companies, I don't know whether you know that, but we are one of the largest investors of startup companies. We have done multiple investment in France and other countries, and we welcome entrepreneurship that can help us to technological contribution for good. So with that, I thank you very much, and I look forward to continue to drive this community together. Thank you.